Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Undefined. I am really excited today. I am joined by Anna Butterss. They are a bass player from Australia. They currently reside in LA. They have multiple projects, solo work. You had a solo album come out in 2024, Mighty Vertebrate, and you have a band, SML. Their album Small, Medium, Large dropped last year, and you've just been playing some shows with them. And I was introduced to Anna from their work in Jason Isbell in the 400 unit. I'm so excited to be joined by them today and talk all things music. How are you today, Anna?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, Bella. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited. I think what I want to do is I want to learn more about you because you have a very interesting story. You started out as a jazz musician, and did you learn to play flute first? Is that correct? And you started off in the bass? Take me through your journey musically. How did that get started for you?
Sure, yes, the rumors are true. I did start on flute. Um, Kind of at a young age. My family is super into music. My parents
Mhm.
both played Irish music,
Oh, wow.
and we all sang a lot as a family. And my dad gave me his old flute that he had had when he was a child. And I was about 7 years old. He gave me the flute, and I don't know, my parents signed me up for lessons, and I really enjoyed it. I really took to it, and just I had a lot of opportunities to play in orchestras and kind of like wind ensembles, and I was singing in a lot of choirs, and I was always just really into it. When I was 13, I started playing the upright bass.
Mhm.
In high school, I was at a music high school, and they told me to choose another instrument as well as the flute because I was the only kid who didn't play two instruments. So they're like, you have to choose, everyone plays two instruments, you have to choose another one, you have to like start this week. And I kind of chose upright bass a little. I mean, I didn't think about it too much. I didn't have much time to choose, and it seemed cool, and I wanted to do something different. And I hadn't really heard jazz, but I could see that a lot of the other kids in my class were into it. It seemed cool. So I kind of was just like, all right, let me try that. And I kind of, right the first week I started playing the instrument, I kind of, it was just such an instant connection. It made so much sense to me. I just loved it. And that was that, really.
Wow, I love that. That's such an inspiring story. And so you mentioned you didn't really get into jazz until you got into the orchestra and you grew up, your family was playing a lot of music and Irish music is a big influence. So with you personally, and I like to ask everybody on this show this question, like what was some like standout music for you, like as you were younger that you were listening to that you were like, okay, this is what I want to do, and like this is very inspiring to me because I'm always curious to say what everybody says.
That's a great question. I think it's interesting. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I think my musical experiences, really from a really young age, were mostly focused around, like, there was some listening to music going on, but it was a lot of playing. Like, a lot of my musical experience was singing in a choir or playing in an orchestra. Or then, like, I started gigging around my hometown when I was about 16. So I was kind of just in it a lot. I was doing it from a really young age. But I mean, once I started getting into jazz, for me it was a lot of like piano trio records, Oscar Peterson, Ray Brown,
Hmm.
some Christian McBride, those kind of bass players, Paul Chambers, and then
Hmm.
then kind of getting into some Miles Davis stuff and
Yeah.
and going from there. But yeah, I was listening to a lot. Once I started playing upright bass, I was mostly listening to jazz through high school and college.
That's awesome. And so you made the move from Adelaide, right? Is that where you were raised?
That's where I'm
And
from, yes.
yes, and then to LA. And how old were you? It was like, was it less than 10 years ago? Like, what was the decision for you to make that jump? I mean, because it's such a big move. And, with moving like that, did your music taste kind of evolve? Because when you were in LA, as well as getting your own projects, you also worked with a lot of other cool people. You were in Jenny Lewis's band, and
Mhm.
you did the Tiny Desk with her. And you play some of those Harry Styles shows, which was pretty cool. I'm sure that was insane.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I played with Jenny Lewis for a couple years. It was a 10-week tour opening for Harry Styles. Amazing. I mean, it was really cool. And I watched a lot of his shows because I mean his band was amazing. He was
Oh
incredible,
yeah.
super sweet, everyone. Yeah, it was really, really fun experience. But I actually, okay, so the secret, oh, I don't know, the connection between Adelaide and Los Angeles, that I not everyone knows is I actually spent 2 years in Indiana.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, I moved from Adelaide to Bloomington, Indiana, to go to grad school at IU.
Wow.
Yeah, which was kind of I was 21. I did my undergrad at the University of Adelaide in
Uh,
music. I always wanted to move to the States. Once I started getting into jazz, I wanted to move to, I mean, New York really, which never
mhm.
happened, but you know, just kind of America in general. And I ended up at Indiana for grad school because that's kind of the easiest way to get a US visa is to
Wow.
and they gave me a nice scholarship and like kind of like they made me feel welcome and there was a great bass teacher there and I spent 2 years in Bloomington. um
Wow. What was your major in? Was it still in music?
jazz studies, yeah,
Wow,
jazz.
so you're like, you're um trained. That's so cool. I didn't know that you got your master's. That's so awesome.
Yeah, I know, it's very funny. It's a degree that has not I learned things there, but it's not a very useful degree to have a master's in jazz studies. But it got me into the US and I met a lot of people and I played a lot of gigs when I was living in Bloomington. And I moved to LA from Bloomington right after I graduated. My partner was living out here and it was a time, so this was 2014, 11 years ago, I moved to
Oh,
LA.
wow.
Yeah, and it was at a time where, especially in the jazz scene here, there was kind of a lot of like energy and excitement about a kind of like growing jazz scene. There was a club here
Hmm.
called Blue Whale, which unfortunately closed down during the pandemic,
Mm.
like so many places, but there was a lot of really cool stuff happening, and LA was cheaper than New York. It seemed like maybe a good place to just to kind of try out. It was not the long-term plan, was not to stay here, but like you said, I ended up meeting a bunch of really cool people and playing in some indie bands, and kind of my career took a turn from jazz into, well, a bunch of other stuff that I do now. I didn't expect to be playing, however you would describe Jason's music,
Mm.
Southern rock, Americana, country.
Yeah.
I didn't expect to be in that kind of situation.
Yeah, I definitely want to ask about that. It's so interesting being able to talk to because I talk to a lot of people like that are based in the South. And like one of the things that I am interested in maybe like studying when I get my PhD is like Southern storytellers and in music and things. So that's always just like geography in general and music and how that affects you, not just the South, but everywhere. I think is so interesting. And so you said you noticed a shift of your music taste kind of changing. How was that? Did you go watch a lot of live music when you were growing up in Australia? Were there a lot of jazz clubs there? What was the scene like there? And how was that different since you had moved and making that switch from jazz to indie Americana, but you still get to play it in that way too. I feel like with Jason, you get to bring up the upright bass. I've seen you with the band 3 times since you joined.
Oh wow.
And so I always get excited when you bring up the upright bass and then you play the typical electric bass with them. So I want to hear more about that. And then I also wanted to mention you also did work with Andrew Bird, right?
Yes,
And
that's true.
you played on a few Phoebe Bridgers records. Well, you played on the Better Oblivion Community Center, and I know you
Yep.
did some touring with Phoebe, and then you played on the Boy Genius record. I also want to learn more about that. So I want to go.
All right,
Sorry if
looking
I asked a little too many questions there.
No, I appreciate the clearly you've done your research, which is that's sweet. Yeah, I mean, I think growing up, uh, Adelaide's a smaller city. It's not tiny, but it's geographically very isolated. So it
Mhm.
was mostly local music. Not a whole lot of bands were coming through, and I was
Mhm.
mostly I was really going to bars to see jazz, and I was going with my dad a lot of the time, which was really
Oh.
sweet. So yeah, it was really cute. It was like jazz, and then like local kind of more like experimental improvised bands, and there was a cool little scene there. It was kind of very self-contained, not a whole lot of bands that people would know outside of Adelaide, my hometown, but I think that was really cool about it. And then like contrasting that from being in Los Angeles and just, I mean, this has got to be one of the best live music cities in the world. Everyone comes through, there's so many options to see all these musicians. So yeah, when I moved here, at first. I wasn't playing so much because I was kind of just getting established. So I was going out to see music maybe 3 or 4 times a week and meeting a lot of people, mostly jazz. But then, like you said, I kind of started meeting some people through jazz and improvised music who also were playing in bands and also were writing songs. And that was something that I hadn't really been exposed to before. So I kind of started getting into that. And at that time, I also started getting serious about playing electric bass, which I'd never really been focusing on.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and then the first tour I did was with Phoebe Bridges, which is kind of crazy,
That
actually.
is crazy.
Yeah, I know. I was like, yeah, it was not, yeah, I mean, I was lucky to kind of jump into a tour like that. Although, to be
Mhm.
fair, it was her first headline tour, so it was kind of right after she released Stranger in the Alps. She was
Wow.
just blowing up, but we were playing like 200, 300 cap rooms, like we were playing bar shows, which was
Mhm.
insane because everyone could tell she was blowing up. They were all
Yeah,
packed. Like it was a really exciting time to be with her, and then now she's playing stadiums, and that
it's
that was only
insane.
like that was 2018 when I toured
Yeah,
with her.
that's when
Happened
I
really, really
started getting
quickly.
into her too. Yeah, I remember getting into her right after Stranger in the Alps before Better Oblivion Community Center. I
Hmm.
remember listening to the album the day it came out. I was like, this is special. Like, I know
Hmm.
she's big, she's only gonna go up. And of course, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, it was very
That's
exciting to be around it. I saw when she asked me to tour with her, and I wasn't familiar with her music because it was only a couple months after Stranger came out, and they were playing a show at the Lodge Room here in Los Angeles, and she was like, "Come along, come see the show, like we'd love to have you with us. Why don't you come see what it's like?" And I went to the Lodge Room and just like was kind of blown away by how good she was and the songs and how she was connecting with everyone in the room and how excited everyone was about her. And I was like, this seems great. Yeah, sign me up. I would love to do this. And
that's
then
so
from that,
special.
yeah, it was really nice. And I didn't tour with her for super long. Only really like maybe 6 months max.
Hmm.
And but then after that, we stayed in touch, and she called me to play on both the Boy Genius records, which was a very cool experience, and the Better Oblivion one as well. And I think and Punisher as well. I think I played a
Wow.
couple.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if you were played on Punisher because I didn't see that pop up when I was researching, but I wanted to ask you.
I did. I think I did. Yeah. It's hard in sometimes with those kind of records, people make them over such
Mhm.
a long time, and it's like, oh, you call someone in to play bass on a couple tracks. And then I think she called me in to play upright on something. And then I ended up playing electric on a couple of tracks while I was there. It was something like that. But then, then the album comes out like a year later and I'm like listening to it being like, wait, I think that's me, right? Like,
Especially when you balance so many projects too. It's like, wait, was this the one that I did, or did I dream
right.
about this? Like,
It's a nice problem to have. I'll say that.
yeah, I think that is so cool. And did you meet Phoebe through like the jazz scene? Like, did they see you play or meet you at a show or?
Yes, funnily enough, I used to play for 7 years. I played. Well, the band still exists, but the venue does not exist. But I played at this venue, ETA, which is a very small bar in Highland Park in Los Angeles, with Jeff Parker, who's an
Yes.
amazing guitarist,
Hmm.
Jay Belrose, Josh Johnson, and we had a quartet. We played every Monday, and it started off as more of a jazz thing, and then kind of evolved into a more like long form improvisation. And people used to come by, neighborhood people used to come by. A lot of musicians kind of would come by, and yeah, I guess Marshall Vore, who was playing drums for Phoebe at that time, had come with a friend and seen me play. And I think maybe we met briefly at the bar, and then he sent me a message and was like, "Hey, would you come? Are you interested in doing this tour? Do you want to, can you learn a couple of songs? Come over, like we'll jam with the band and see if it's a good fit." So yeah, jazz did really directly lead me into all the indie stuff.
That is really cool. And was it a similar story for Jenny Lewis as well? And I'm glad that you brought up Jeff Parker because I know that he was another one of your big collaborators.
Yeah, Jenny Lewis. Yeah, it was similar. It was through I was actually it's I was really into I started touring with Jenny when after she'd released On the Line was the record.
Yes.
I was really into that record. I heard one of the songs on the radio, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Let me check this out. I was super into the record, and I realized a couple of my friends were playing in the band. I went and saw them. Um, and my partner actually just reminded me of this the other day. I don't remember this, but apparently we went and saw them in Hollywood, and I said, I think I would be a good fit in this band. I want to play in
Wow.
this, which I totally forgot. And then like 6 months later, they call me up. One of the guitarists, Dylan Day, who is a good friend of mine, he was like, "Hey, do you want to play with Jenny Lewis?" I was like, "Oh, yes, I
Of
do."
course. You don't
Yeah,
say no. I had never seen Jenny solo, but I did get to see her last year in the Postal Service, and I'm a big
very
fan
cool.
of them. I never thought I would see the Postal Service live, but it was incredible to like see her with them, and yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, she's an incredible artist. I have a lot of love for Jenny and just like how she's kind of redefined herself over and over again and like getting into all these new kind of, like the last couple of years she's been going in more of like a country direction and
Yeah,
people and she's done like the more like punky indie thing with Rilo Kiley and yeah,
yeah.
she's a pretty cool artist.
Yeah, I think, and it seems like you kind of ended up surrounding yourself with these musicians too that are very evolved. That like, and that's like my show is called Undefined because I don't like genre, so I love people who kind of just dabble in everything because I feel like in this time genres I feel like are not becoming obsolete, but I feel like they're becoming less necessary. I feel like especially in circles with like people like myself that there's a lot of people that just love to hear music. It doesn't really matter like what kind it is. And I feel like a lot of artists are latching on to that and really not staying in a certain lane. And I think it's a very exciting time for music because of that. And I always love hearing about different stories. And that's why I was so interested in your story too, because you're blending those two worlds. And I think that is so cool.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, I think. Yeah, it's funny because I came from being very I kind of came from the other perspective of just being very kind of like blinders on, like I'm into jazz, this is the best kind
Mhm.
of music, I'm not interested in all this other stuff. And I don't think it did me any good to kind of write off the depth and the beauty of all these other styles. Whereas once I started getting into those, it just informed me. I think it made me a better person. It definitely made me a better musician to be able to like listen to a style or something I maybe wouldn't normally put on and be like, but I can hear this element's really interesting to me, or I've never heard this before. And it's especially in such a globalized artistic community now and musical community. It is just a mishmash because we're all listening to music from all over the world. And I think, I don't know, it is an exciting time. I agree with that for sure.
Awesome. And I want to talk more about your solo work. So you have two albums, right? You have Activities and then you have Mighty Vertebrate. And I love
Mhm.
the album art for the new record, by the way. It is so cool. I want to hear more about that. And because the new album came out last year. So it was, you would have been what, a year or two with the 400 unit, and then you went in to make that record. I want to hear your story behind that and also like all of the visuals surrounding that album I love. So I want to hear how you
Cool.
incorporated that as well.
Yeah, so well, all the visual elements are by my good friend John Herndon, who is a member of Tortoise. As well. He plays drums and mostly drums, some and percussion, and he's a very cool visual artist, and he does tattoos as well. I have a couple of his tattoos on me. He's just like a very creative person, and he sees things in a very kind of strange, kind of psychedelic way.
Mhm.
And like I've always been drawn to his art since before I met him, and we played a couple times with Jeff Parker, like
Mhm.
improvised gigs in Los Angeles, and we just really hit it off. And I think his visuals are just so interesting and weird, and I thought it was a good fit with my music. And he made a video for Activities as well, my first solo record, and then he
Mhm.
did that art for Mighty Vertebrate. Um, and I kind of just like I feel like it was really easy for me to trust him to listen to the music and come up. I don't like when I collaborate with people, I really don't like putting them, like telling them too much what to do, because I conversely don't like it when other people tell me too much what to do. I like to be called like, okay, can you play bass? Do whatever, just try something, do what you do. Which is what I did with John, and he kind of came up with that really kind of like psychedelic visual world, which I think just fits so well with the music.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it fits perfectly. It is so cool. I love it.
Yeah, but in terms of making the record, it was yeah, I think I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I guess I was writing it all through 2023, which is the year I joined the 400 unit. And also that year I was touring with Andrew Bird,
Hmm.
I was touring with Jeff Parker.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a couple of other things going on. There was a lot of stuff happening. And but when I was back in LA, I didn't have too much going on. So every time I came back home, I would kind of just like work a little bit on music, just by myself, kind of just really slowly over a long period of time. And over that year, 2023, all the songs kind of came together. Then about December 2023, I brought what I had, all the demos, to my friend Ben Lumsdane, who we co-produced the record together, and he played drums and did some of the engineering. And Ben and I have been good friends since we were 19. So he was another person who I didn't really have to explain anything to. He kind of just he knew where I was coming from. We had the same kind of ideas, and it was just really easy to make the record with him. We brought the band in, we recorded it. But yeah, all the same time while I was like learning all Jason's music and being on the road, it was a pretty hectic time, I'll say.
How does your brain just be able to like learning all of his songs and then being able to compose your own stuff and then still play? Like that is so impressive.
Thanks. It was stressful, but it's also I'm the kind of person who I'll get bored if I just play like it doesn't matter whose music it is. If I'm just doing one thing, I will get bored. I'll get bored if I'm just playing with Andrew Bird. I'll get bored if I'm just playing with Jason. I need to have other things going on as well. So it's also like it's hard and it's a lot of work, but it also makes me feel mentally well to do that.
Yeah.
So it's worth it, I guess, for me.
It's gratifying. Yeah.
It is gratifying. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and I'm really interested in talking more about your music because, like I said, I talk to a lot of songwriters, but you're a composer, so your stuff is a little bit different because I like to talk a lot about like songwriting process and how people do that. But I want to hear that more from a composer perspective, like when you're coming up with a piece, like how does that work? And then when you're on tour so much, are you kind of like coming up with ideas or sounds and do you kind of have an idea of where you want a song to go and you pitch it to a band, or do you start something on bass and everybody kind of builds it up naturally? Because I was really curious about that when I was listening to your records.
It's a good question. I think, yeah, with this most recent one, the way I work in Ableton, like I work from a recording perspective. So I'll have an idea, come up with an idea. I'll usually choose an instrument, sometimes bass, sometimes guitar, a lot of drum machine in this latest record.
Hmm.
I was messing around with. So I'll come up with like just a little idea on one of those instruments. I'll loop it and then I'll try and just, add more instruments, come up with parts, kind of build it like that. Once I have an idea that feels interesting, I'll kind of start thinking of, okay, how's the form of the song? Like, does it need a contrasting section? Is this going to be kind of, because yeah, like you said, it's instrumental music, right? So
Hmm.
I'll be like, okay, do I need a bridge, something that feels like a bridge, or like, do I think it would sound good to have saxophone here? And then once I kind of build up the form until it's like, okay, this feels like it has an arc, like it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. I'm kind of happy with that. I can hear it fleshed out in my head. Um, excuse me. I For this latest record, Mighty Vertebrate, I wrote out charts, like
Wow.
notes. I wrote out all the melodies. Like I came up with them all. I had them all recorded, and then I wrote them out so I could give it to the band and be like, okay, here, play this. Um, yeah, and that was kind of yeah. It was there was a small degree. There was some degree of collaboration. The four of us when we were tracking it, but a lot of it was already kind of written out and defined. Um, a lot of the projects I play with, like with Jeff Parker or with SML, are very improvised, mostly
Hmm.
improvised music. So it was kind of a fun challenge with my own solo work to actually sit down, like you said, and compose something, and like try and have it a little more structured.
That is so cool. I love hearing like about it from that perspective, and I just love learning about how different creatives work with music. And I think that is so awesome. And I want to talk more about SML because we both brought them up. How did that come to be? And you're doing a few shows now, right? Did you wrap them up yet, or do you still have one or two left? I know you were just in Chicago, and I know you might have. I think you had a few. It's a little run.
Yeah. We played in Chicago a couple weeks ago. We're playing in LA in a couple days, this
Ooh,
week, and then we're going to Seattle, and we'll be in Knoxville, Tennessee to play at the Biggest Festival, which I'm really excited.
ooh,
Yeah, that looks like I haven't been, but it looks like an incredible festival. Um, and yeah, SML is an interesting band. SML came about kind of organically as well at the same venue, ETA, that we used to play at with Jeff Parker.
wow.
The our friend Ryan Julio, who booked it, who owned it and booked the music there, was just kind of very into. He was just kind of wide open in terms of like, if you would be like, "Hey Ryan, I want to do a weird duo project with this person, and we'll just play electronic music." He'd be like, "Great, sounds good. Do you want to do it next week? Like, when do you want to do it?" He was very open to that kind of stuff. So SML grew out of a couple of nights of just improvised music at ETA, with those guys, with that band, and then we'd recorded. Our friend Bryce Gonzalez had recorded the shows. We kind
Mhm.
of um, I don't know, someone had the idea to make it into a record. The label International Anthem was also very involved right from the start. I think they were just excited about the sound. They thought it sounded cool. They thought it was different. I think they were probably like, "You guys should make a record," and it just came out of that. It was a very like when we put out the SML record, we'd only played like four shows together. It wasn't like it was. Yeah, and the record, it wasn't, we didn't go into the studio. We took the live audio from those shows
Oh
and
wow, yeah, I was gonna ask
edited. Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, that's how I actually wasn't involved in that process the first time around. The other four guys did that. I was pretty
Mhm.
busy with Mighty Vertebrate at the time. But we're working on the second SML record at the moment. We're almost done editing, and that's what we've been doing. We record every show we play. We've taken all the recordings back, and now we're all individually cutting them up, editing them, and we kind of have we've been like listening to everything that everyone else has edited, and we'll do a couple
Mhm.
overdubs and stuff, and that's going to be the record. So it's a really fun way to
Wow.
put music.
That's so cool. And I wanted to talk like based on that process. So when you're playing live, like so do you not play songs off that record then? Because that was just is it all
No.
just improvisation? Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
so cool.
Yeah, it's yeah. I hope people don't come to the shows, expecting to hear the record because they don't.
It's not one of those shows that like, you want to
It's
listen
not.
to the album to prepare. You just show up.
Yeah, no, you just have to come in with an open mind. But people really, I think it's a fun live band because I think, if you're prepared to go on that journey with us, it's a wild ride, It's yeah, it's fun, and like we'll get into kind of like trancey kind of grooves that'll go on for a long
Yeah.
time, and it's a really fun band, but yeah, the record and the live show are not, yeah, not that similar.
That is so cool. It reminds me of when I saw you guys in Memphis, when I saw the 400 unit Lonnie Holly open. And
Oh
and he has the
yeah.
same deal where he like, his stuff, it's not practice every show. He just makes something up on the spot,
Mhm.
right? I think that was him. Yeah, so that was really cool. Like I thought that was really interesting. And I think it takes a lot of talent too and courage, to just be like, okay, we're just gonna come out and this is what we're gonna play, and nobody in the crowd is gonna know the song, but it's gonna be fun and people are gonna go on a journey. And I think that is
Mhm.
so cool.
Yeah, it definitely. Yeah, it can be a little scary. I think you have to have a lot of trust. You have to have a lot of trust in yourself, and you have to have a lot of trust in your bandmates.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, you have to have trust in the audience as well. And you have to kind of be like, well, this might not be for everyone. And also,
Hmm.
like with Jason, for example, like at least in the time I've been in the band, we've never played a bad show. Like the show is good. Like every night it's good. Some
I
nights
can
it's
vouch for that.
yeah, but every night it's good, Some nights it's amazing and every night it's good. But when you're playing improvised music, you kind of have to like accept the fact that you might have a terrible show one night where like it doesn't feel like you're all in the same space, where you don't feel like
Yeah.
the idea is flowing. That's kind of part of it. Like you will have shows that kind of like, I didn't really feel good about this one, but that's kind of the part of the process, right? And I think the audience can appreciate that too, that like, yeah, you're going on a journey and you don't know what that's going to be. None of us know what that's going to be.
Wow, that is really cool. And I can kind of relate to that in perspective, like when I do my radio show, because when you're doing anything live, it's like, and that's unrehearsed. It's like, okay, sometimes I have really good shows and I feel really confident, and sometimes there's technical issues or something happened, or I was like, but it's just a learning curve, and it's fun because you never know what the day is going to be. And I'm not a musician, but I can only imagine from that experience, like how unique that must be. And I think that's really cool that you challenge yourself.
No, I think that's a really good comparison, actually. It
Mhm.
is, yeah, because and the other thing is like you don't want it to be too scripted, otherwise it's kind of boring, If
Yeah.
you're interviewing someone and you feel like you have to stick to a very like scripted out thing and you can't like improvise. I mean, you're kind of improvising a bit as well, and that's I don't know, I
Yeah,
think that's
that's
interesting,
thank you.
right?
I appreciate you pointing that out. Yeah, I've been doing this for a few years, and at first I was like, and every time like I write notes when I talk to people, but I really don't look at them. Well, especially like the last 6 months that I've been doing this, like I kind of know the people really well because I do a lot of research. And
I
the
can tell.
last oh, thank you. Yeah, the last several shows, including this one, it's just been such natural conversation, and I think it's very authentic. And I appreciate you talking, bringing that up because I'm really try hard to give that experience with my guests because I know like you take time out of your day, and I'm sure you're used to doing press when everybody just asks the same kind of questions, and I know with like every artist once you look into their interviews, you can kind of see a pattern of the things
Mhm.
that they're asked all the time, and so I try to dive deep and make that more connection and not just like okay, we're just here to promote whatever. I just want it to be an
Mm.
open-ended conversation about music.
I love that. I think that really comes through.
Thank you. Yeah, it means a lot. And so now that we covered a lot of your solo stuff and your stuff with your band, I want to talk about how you got into the 400 unit because you've been in the 400 unit since right after Weather Vanes came out.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've seen you guys. I saw you with them in Memphis, and then I went to two Ryman shows. I was at the opening night of the last run, and that was a great show. That was when you guys started doing the REM stuff.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right. That
yeah,
was
you did
fun. Yeah.
Losing My Religion. I was so
Right.
excited. Yeah, so I want to hear about how did you get connected with Jason? Did he know your jazz stuff? Did he find you out through the other people that you toured with? Because he reached out to you, right?
Yeah, his management reached out to me.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I'm still like a little um unsure of how exactly it came about. They needed
Mhm.
someone really last minute. They didn't have a whole lot of time to sort it out. I
Mhm.
think when they called me, I was gonna have to fly out in a week if I wanted to do the
Mhm.
shows. So I think they probably called a couple of people. I was recommended to them through my friend Phil Cronengold, who I played with Madison Cunningham with him.
Oh, nice.
Um, and I think he recommended me. Someone reached out to him. He put my name in the hat, and they called me. And I had a couple weeks off touring with. I think I was with Andrew Bird at that time,
Mhm.
and it seemed fun. But I wasn't super familiar with Jason's music. I knew just a really tiny bit. Because
Mhm.
when I was with Phoebe Bridges, they were all really into him. So I heard a little bit of it through
That's
through, through
cute.
them. Yeah, it was sweet. But they sent me recordings of like the last two shows that they'd played, and I listened to it. I was like, this band sounds incredible, like super tight, good songs. I was like, yeah, I think this would be fun. But it was supposed to be like 5 shows. I was supposed to play 5 shows with them, and that was it.
Mhm.
Um, so I spent a week learning the music, and I flew out. They flew me out to Nashville, and we rehearsed for 2 days because this was stressful. Now I'm thinking back on it, it was actually quite stressful because the first show that I played with them was the album release of Weather Vanes.
Wow.
It's in Nashville, which meant that all the management's there, like a
All the
bunch of
super
people are
fans.
there, all the super fans are there. Like I think I was, I was nervous. I was like, I know this people really care about this band. They're not expecting to see me. I got on stage and someone immediately yelled out, "Where's Jimbo?" which kind of really got to me. Because I was just like, I'm just trying to do my best here. Like I'm just
Yeah.
trying to do my best and go home. Um, but everyone in the band, I mean, everyone was super, super welcoming to me. And like, it was a really fun experience. I loved being around those guys. It was such a good vibe from everyone. And I played 5 shows with them. It felt like we all connected really like on a deep level. I just really felt a lot
Mm-hmm.
of love for them immediately,
Mm-hmm.
band and crew and management. And then they flew me back to LA, and I got a call at 9 a.m. the next morning from the tour manager saying, "Can you come back tomorrow? Like, can we fly you back tomorrow?" So I went back to Nashville and we did, it just it kind of went from there. And we were playing together for a few months, kind of on and off, and they had some other bass players as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dominic Davis, Cat
Uh,
Popper, great bass players, but I think between the three of us, we all had other touring going on, so they were
uh,
kind of shuffling it around a little bit. And I think it was halfway through the first Ryman run I did with them that Jason asked me to officially, if I wanted to, officially be in the
mhm.
band. It's like, absolutely, yes, of course.
That's so awesome. And was that first Weatherman show, did Will join the band at that point too? Because I know you guys,
Yes,
yeah, I was gonna
yes.
say, was it at the
Yeah.
exact same time?
It was the
With,
exact same time. Yes, yeah, that's so funny because I always forget that. But yeah, my first day was also Will's first day, and he was nervous too. I mean, it's hard coming into a new he knew the guys, which I think helped him.
yeah.
And I was kind of just like, I don't know
Mhm.
anyone here, but it was the same. Yeah, lots of changes. Yeah, at the same time. I love Will so much.
Oh, Will Smith. You know, what's so funny is that when I talked to him back in December, I asked him what kind of music that he was listening to now, and he mentioned that he was listening to your music. And that made me happy. I thought that was really sweet. And
Well, okay, so Will, like, he's an amazing painter as well.
yes, he
No, I know
is.
you know that. Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's saying he well, so it's really sweet. Last summer, I asked him if he would do a painting for me because I really love his work and I like
me
to have
too.
friends' work.
Yeah, me too.
I asked him if he would do a painting for me. He did this beautiful painting of Ornette Coleman that we have up in our living room. And I had asked
Oh,
him, I was like, I'm going to commission a painting from you, like, but you need to tell me how much. Did the painting, and he was like, yeah, don't worry about it. We'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it later. And he sent me the painting, and I was like, well, this is amazing. I love it so much. And he was just like, look, I've been thinking about this. I don't want any money, but can you just send me like some vinyl that can you just send me all your music? Like, can you send me all the records you've played on? Like, I think he'd been listening to a couple of them on Spotify. He was like, I really like this one, I love this one. So I sent him a bunch of vinyl in the mail, and then he was listening to that. And it was really, I don't know, it really meant a lot to me.
he's
Yeah,
so sweet. I love him. He's
he's a
just the
good
best. Like,
person.
just
Yeah,
like so genuine and so talented too. Like in all of the stuff that
yeah.
he does, and he's just such a beautiful songwriter. His new album's coming out, I think next week. And
Oh my God,
yeah.
I can't keep up with him. He's
Yeah,
just
I
like,
know. It's like it
yeah.
was so funny. It's like, I remember it was in November he had dropped the EP. It was so funny. I was actually at a drive-by trucker show
Oh my God.
and I know it was crazy. And I ended up meeting Patterson that night and we were talking about Will and he was like, yeah, he has a new EP out today. I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that man doesn't sleep.
Yeah, I know it. Like I said, it's like every few months there's a new Will Johnson, and I'm not mad about it at all. I have his book too, and it's just so
Oh yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a true polymath, just like
yeah.
multi-talented individual. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Mm.
I said, I think, that's one thing that I can see that the band shares. And, it's so funny you mentioned, it's only been 2 years, but, it's hard for me. It's like I got into the band in 2021, and when I think of the band, I do think about this current lineup because I think it's so strong. And I think there is, and I've talked about it with Will and with Stadler, is that you can tell, like, it's not one of those bands where everybody's just playing on the track because they're supposed to. And you guys tour super, like, consistently too, like all the time, but every show, I mean, you can tell that you all genuinely like each other and you genuinely like the music and you're having a good time. And I think that is so important about a band, especially like, when you make lineup changes, you don't know how that's going to be. You don't know how the fans will react or how the band will sound or, if it'll be the same, but I just love this current iteration of the band, and that's what I really think about when I think about the music. And I love the new live album that came out, and
Mm.
every time I see you guys, it's just like I told the other guys this, it's my favorite thing to do. It's like it's my favorite band, so I just
Aw,
love seeing you
that
guys
means a
live.
lot.
It makes
No,
me
thank you for
very
saying that.
happy.
I think it's really true. I think it's, I love those guys like to death. They're my brothers and dads, mostly dads. Dad's my
Wait,
brother.
who's your brother?
Sadler.
Tyler? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Sadler's my brother. Will is my grandfather. No, yeah, no, yeah, it's good. And I have been on tours where that's not the case, and it does feel like,
yeah.
okay, like I'm gonna get on stage with this person I don't really like, but we're gonna have to like play music together, and that's hard. It's challenging. I never feel that way with the 400 unit. I genuinely love them all, and I love the crew, and it's a great vibe. And the fans, I do understand that it can be hard for fans when you've been fans of a band, like a fan of a band for a really long time, and there's a lineup change. I do get it. And I will say most of the vast majority of Jason's fans have been so sweet and so welcoming to me. And I that means a lot too, because I really care about the music. I'm really happy to be in the band. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't love it. And it's nice. Yeah, it's nice to be appreciated for that.
To talk about the 400 unit stuff, a big thing that is connected to that is the Ryman. And so you've played two Ryman runs. I know I briefly mentioned that. How was that for you? Because like, had you ever played like a residency before? I know you did a lot of like orchestras and symphonies, so I'm sure you were in a thing where you were in the same venue for multiple days doing multiple shows. But how was it to be like that? Because like I always describe the Ryman as an event, because it is so much more than a typical concert, because that's when, every night you don't really know what they're going to play. And for being a new member, how much studying did you have to do to be like, okay, we're going to do the typical weather vanes, whatever, but we might do street lights, we might do drive-by truckers, we might do this song that hasn't been played in 10 years.
My
And
God.
also like the cool in like thing about the Ryman to me is that everybody travels for it. Like I have a
Mhm.
short trip. It's just like a 4 hour drive, 1 hour plane. But everybody, I talked to a couple that came in from England. And it's this
Oh,
thing where all the
wow.
fans gather, and it's this big moment and this big community of all the people who just love this music. And I think that's what makes it so special. What was that like from your perspective to join that?
I mean, okay, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head because it was intense. The first year, like, I guess I'd only been playing with them for a few months when it came to the Ryman, and I wasn't even an official member of the band. Like I think I
Hmm.
mentioned before, like halfway through
Yeah.
the Ryman run, Jason was like, "Do you want to be in the band?"
Hmm.
Um, but I didn't like I knew it was an event. I knew it was like the big thing of the year, but like I didn't understand really what it was. I didn't understand that we were going to be playing deep cuts every night. Because like my entry into the band was basically that we rehearsed the Weather Vane songs and a couple of other songs, but a lot of and I had learned a bunch of songs, but a lot of the time, the first time I would be playing a song would be in a sound check or sometimes literally at a concert. Like I'd learned it, I'd listened to the recordings, and then we'd play it. He'd put it on the set list that night, and I'd be like, okay, well, I guess I'm playing this one for the first time. So I didn't quite realize how much we were going to be in the back catalog for those Ryman
Hmm.
shows. And unfortunately, because I spent a lot of time, playing jazz, and I spent a lot of time learning songs really quickly. So I am quite good at it. But
Hmm.
Jason picked that up really early, and I think he kind of thought it was like kind of like a fun thing. He'd be like, "Oh, let's play this new song." Like he'd in sound check, he'd come and be like, "Oh, let's play this song," and I'd be like, "Okay, cool. I don't know this one." He'd be like, "Oh, kind of it goes like this," or like Sadler would kind of teach it to me, and he was like, kind of like, "Oh, this is kind of like a fun thing to do." For me, it was kind of stressful because like again, I like doing that, but when, it's something like I can't remember, Streetlights or Danko or something, I don't know, a song that I
Yeah, I
haven't
love
played before.
Danko.
Yes, I love Danko too. Oh my God. And the first time you're playing it is at the Ryman for all these people. And I know there are people in the audience who've come and they want to hear their favorite song that only gets played one time a year. And that means so much to them. And for me, I'm like, this is my first time playing the song. I want to play it really well for these people. But it's
Hmm.
also, it was a lot like, yeah, it was a lot of, I learned a lot of songs that first Ryman run, and I learned a lot of them day of the concert. And then it just feels heavy when I know how much they mean to people, and I want to do a good job. And I think that year we played Southeastern, like top to
Yes,
bottom.
I was at the
Oh, you were
second
at that one?
show. Yeah, the second one. That was like the best show I've ever been to.
I love that. Yeah,
I think about that all the time because I didn't know. And Southeastern is like my favorite record. And so I was with
it's
my
so
best
good. Yeah,
friend. And when I saw that the Southeastern sign was on the thing, I was like,
I
so
think
the
it's
whole,
good.
I know. And then the way that you guys even played more songs after that, like, and then you went right into the King of Oklahoma, which is my favorite song. I was like, this is the
Mhm.
best night ever. I was so happy. That was so cool. Did you know Southeastern before those shows, or was it like the day of like, okay, we're just gonna do Southeastern tonight, or was it planned?
That one was planned. He had someone had given a heads up and been like, we're gonna play Southeastern. And I knew most of the songs because most of them are in
Yeah, I'm
rotation.
the same.
There
Same.
are a
Yeah,
couple like Yvette that we never play.
yeah.
Um, a couple others maybe I can't remember. So that one I had a heads up. And then like a lot of the days I would be getting a text like a couple of hours before sound check being like, I want to play this one tonight, or I want to play these two songs tonight, or I want to do this cover. Then the second year, yeah, the first year was stressful. This past year where we did all the REM covers,
Mhm.
uh, that was less stressful because we got sent those in advance, or at least a little bit in advance for the most part. So I like had time to like listen to them and like learn them, and there weren't as many deep cuts, and I knew more of the repertoire as well. So it became, and also I knew what I was preparing for, because the first year at the Ryman, like no lie, I thought this is going to be so chill. I was like, we're probably not even going to sound check because we're just playing the same venue every night. We sound check every single day. I was like thinking like I'm going to be chilling. I
Just
was
show up because everybody lives like most of the band lives there too, so they're like
yeah,
going back to their houses. Because
I
that's what
know.
Sadler said. Like he went to a block party, dressed up as Captain America, and then he played the show.
Yes, the Halloween party. Yes, I know. Oh my God, that was so funny. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then suddenly I was like, I have never been this tired in my life. I'm exhausted. Like,
Yeah.
but it's good. Now, then I knew what to expect. So now I'm fine with it. But
Yeah, it's a little daunting at first. I can only imagine, yeah, how different that was. And isn't that room, there's just something so special about it.
mm-hmm,
Did you
true.
ever play it with Jenny? Because I know she had done some shows there before. I didn't know if
Not with Jenny, but I played it one time with Andrew Bird, and it was very I remember it being very stressful. I think like you're saying, there's a lot of history, there's a lot of weight. It's an important room. It's also very um it's very quiet, it's a theater. Everyone is sitting there quiet. I remember when we were playing with Bird just thinking like this is and with Bird also we don't use in-ear monitors. We just have stage monitors so we can hear everything. That's like with
wow.
you have in-ears so you can't, to a certain extent, you can't really hear what's going on in the crowd. But with Bird, like we were just sitting there and everyone was dead silent, and I was just thinking like, oh my God, don't mess this up. It was a lot of pressure, um but yeah, it's amazing. It's a beautiful venue in the worst street in the world.
Oh yeah, I mean, so overstimulating, but
Yeah,
I mean, it's worth it. It's definitely
it is
worth
worth
it
it.
once you're there. Yeah. And then I wanted to talk about like REM. Were you familiar with REM, or was it something that because I'm sure like even like growing up in Australia, I know like REM's big, but and I didn't seem like they were in the typical music that you were listening to. Was that
Mhm.
something that you got into because of Jason and the band? And did you kind of deep dive more into their catalog? Because I grew up on REM, but I was
Oh,
really
really?
curious. Yeah, my parents are big fans. I was like listening to their live album in the backseat.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, no, I don't even think I'd heard REM. Not, yeah, I'm sure people in Australia had, but yeah, like you said, I was in a pretty narrow kind of
Yeah.
focused path. I wasn't really listening to any kind of like rock or popular music at all. So no, I don't even think I must have heard some of those. I don't even know if I'd heard Losing My Religion, which is kind of embarrassing.
Wow.
But
I
and I
mean,
honestly like I didn't like when Jason was like, we're gonna be covering REM, and he sent like I think Sadler made a playlist of the songs we were gonna cover, and I listened to them
it's
and I
cute.
was know about this. Like I was like, it didn't quite like it didn't speak to me. And I think that partly, like yeah, I don't know. I got more into it once we started playing them. I was like, okay, I get why this is cool. But like at the start, I was kind of like, huh, okay.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think, yeah, definitely an outsider's perspective coming from a whole different background and place and like, not from that Athens scene or like I feel like they're
right.
very
Yeah.
big in like the American rock music lovers or people that had grew like were in college in the 90s and things like that.
Hmm.
And I mean, like, I knew REM from my parents, but besides that, I mean, the only pop culture way I knew REM is that they had a song in the Disney movie Chicken Little. The end of the world as we know it was in that one. So that's how a lot of
Oh,
people
yeah.
my age know REM.
So
We just say,
funny.
yeah, yeah, Chicken Little. But it was really cool to
Funny.
hear y'all play that song. It was actually funny. I was sitting up in the ADA section in the balcony of that night, and there was this older couple next to me, and you guys were playing Losing My Religion, and the man turns next to me and he goes, "What is this?" I was like, "It's
Oh.
REM." So that made
That's
me laugh too. So you're not alone. There are definitely
yes. Okay,
people
well that's
that,
nice to
yeah,
hear.
you're definitely not alone.
So funny. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's so cool.
yeah, but it was cool to like it's nice to like do a little bit of a dive like you're saying into a band like that and be like, okay, what is this about? Like why, you know, what is the thing about this that everyone's so excited about? And I think part of it is, yeah, like you're saying, the time and the place in which that music was created, and then coming to that from a completely different context. It Yeah, it's not the same, but but it was cool and I enjoyed learning all the songs.
Do you have like any music like from like Australia specifically that like impacted you growing up? Like do you try to show the guys like this is my kind of music? Like since they get into I mean you have to listen to I'm sure you have to like listen to the pre-show playlist that they pick out. I don't know if Sadler's
Oh,
made you listen to Oasis.
Sadler's made me listen to many things against my will. No, it's funny that you mentioned the pre-show playlist because like it's been it has been an issue, not an issue, but like it's all in good fun. But like normally Sadler has always had the aux.
That's what I thought. That was my guess. I was gonna ask him that, but it completely escaped me. But I
That's
that was
funny. Well, let me confirm. Sadler's always had the aux, and then occasionally, and he gets really excited, and he'll be like, "Oh, have you ever heard this band?" Like, and I'll be like, "No," and then he'll be like, "Oh my God, you have to listen to it." So like before the show, and then on the bus afterwards, he's like, like he's played me a bunch of stuff that I've been like, "This is incredible," and then he's played me stuff that I'm like, I could take or leave this. But eventually, like a couple times recently. I was like, I'm gonna like, I want to get the aux, and it's not Australian music, but I'll just play more like funk, soul, like some kind of like 70s jazz, just like a little more eclectic, like less rock and roll.
hmm.
Um, but after I got the aux a couple of times, and then like the other guys were like, "Oh, this is cool. What's this?" And I was like, "This is this weird Herbie Hancock record from the 70s."
Hmm.
After that a couple times, Sadler was like, "Okay, let's like let's each pick 5 songs, and we're gonna make a group playlist, and we're gonna shuffle it for the pre-show." He's like, "We're all gonna choose 5 songs." Um, and we did that and it was super fun. And then we were all like guessing who picked which song. And it
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh.
I know. And then we started all adding, he was like, well, let's add more songs because this is only like, 15 songs. So we all started adding a bunch of songs. And then it got into, I kind of, like, I thought it was funny to just like kind of be like, I'm going to add so many songs that this like becomes like more of my playlist. And Sadler was kind of doing the same. And me and Sadler were adding a lot of songs to this thing. So now we have this playlist. It's probably like 8 hours
Oh my
long.
gosh, I'm gonna see
It's
it.
great. It's an incredible playlist. There's like it goes all over the place. There's like hip hop on there. There's like country. There's everything, and I don't know. It's been really fun. Like we've all like discovered a lot of like great music from this bizarre playlist that we have now.
I love that. Yeah, I always thought like, I'm obsessed with pre-show playlists, and I always like kind of come up with things in my head if I was ever a musician or if I was in charge of putting on an event, what would my pre-show playlist be? You're like, who gets to choose the walkout song? Is that Sadler or is that Jason?
Jason chose that. Yeah, Jason chooses that. Jason, I think, has the playlist for like the official like the actual pre-show. I guess I'm just talking about the one that we play in our green room.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, so that okay, the one in
Yeah, sorry,
that
I
gets
didn't
so
clarify.
that no, it's okay. So
No,
the
the pre-show that they actually play that the audience hears is like very cultivated by Jason, curated. I think Jason does that. And then we just have like our huge one that we like to listen to,
I
like by getting like all getting dressed and
Yeah, I think at one of the Ryman shows, because all the fans are going to be there, you should just like shuffle the 8 hour playlists and
Yes.
just, I mean, only for those shows and
That's
just
so
see
smart.
like, because, you know, you might get completely different songs each night because the playlist is so long and just
Oh,
like,
totally. And something we also did recently, which was so fun, is our oh, you said Chance, our merch.
yes, he's wonderful.
Love Chance. He rides on the band bus with us sometimes.
Mhm.
And one night I don't know, it's probably Sadler's idea, or maybe Chad, I don't know. But someone realized that like Chance knows every 90s country song that's ever been written, and
Oh
he
my
can name
gosh.
it within the first like 5 seconds of hearing it. So we had this
No.
where someone just like that 2 hours, people were just playing 90s country songs, and the song would start, and we'd all look at Chance, and like within like 5 seconds, Chance would be like, "Oh, it's this one. Oh, it's this one," and it was just like it was like an amazing party trick. It was so fun.
Speaking of venues, I mean, based on all your different projects and like solo and with bands, you've and just all of the places that you've been able to travel to, you've been big rooms, small rooms. Are there any specific venues to you from any project that you've ever played in that like you felt really connected to and that you were really inspired by? Because this is another question I love asking because I'm a big venue nerd. I have like a mental
Mhm.
list of places that I want to go visit, and so
Oh,
I like
really?
I like hearing people's stories of what their favorites are.
Wow, that is such a good question. And I'm like running through my head now, like trying to remember. I mean, hmm.
So I know you've like played Radio City, you've played Red Rocks, like the thing
Radio
with
City
my
was great. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't know if there were some like smaller ones or like some ones that are like less on
Yeah.
the radar that like you really loved. Or I mean, I'm sure like Radio City was amazing, and I've been to Red Rocks. That is just like insane.
Red Rocks is phenomenal. Yeah. Yes. There are, but I'm just like it's so annoying because I know like we're gonna hang up this call and then I'm gonna remember like five and email them to you. But I I like a venue with a good green room. Or like where the hospitality is
Yes.
really good. That makes a huge difference. But I do like playing just in general. I do love playing a kind of like 300, 400 cap kind of like club, like rock kind of club, because like the vibe in those is so good, especially when like it's full of people. Like I'm trying to remember Music Hall of Williamsburg, I really like.
Yes, I've heard of that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Played there a couple times. I played there with Phoebe, and then we played there with SML pretty recently, and that's just like a good size. And we have a place in LA that used to be called the Bootleg. It's called 2220 Arts and Archives now, and
Mhm.
it's the layout is the same. The vibe is a little different. But when it used to be the Bootleg, it's probably like a 200 cap like bar stage, and it's just like super low key. But I used to go there and hear like Madison Cunningham, like before I knew her, just like, and she was like 21 and just throwing down, and like people like that. It's really cool when you get to hear someone in a room, like, and they're going to be playing bigger rooms like after that, and I'm like, oh, this is the only time I'm going to get to hear this person in such
Yeah.
a intimate
Yeah,
venue.
I've had some experiences like that. I think it's
Really,
so
yeah,
cool. Yeah. Those
it is.
smaller rooms, I think like as a fan too, like, you know, I love like being in the theaters or being at the Ryman or Red Rocks or like there's some cool arenas that I like, but I don't think like as a fan, I'm sure as a musician too, it's different. Nothing beats that like intimate vibe of like being in a club or being in a thing where like especially when everybody's just so engaged. I think that is such a special experience. Like I just went to the Basement East for the first time. Last
Yeah.
yeah, I saw Rustin Kelly, and I didn't realize how small that venue was. And I
Mm.
just thought it was so cool, and everybody was so into it. And one of the coolest recent experiences I had is near Ole Miss, where I'm getting my master's. There's this tiny club called Proud Larry's. It's like
Okay.
200, 300 cap, and I got the insane opportunity to go see MJ Lenderman play there.
Oh my God.
And
Wow.
it was like, again, it was like exactly what you said about Madison Cunningham. I was like, I'm never ever going to experience anything like this again. And to be in such a small room with a lot of young people too, and people of all ages. There were dads, there were, you know, all kinds of people there. And a lot of like some people we would all film like a few seconds, but overall, like when he did She's Leaving You, the whole room, it was overpacked too. There were people, it was like a restaurant too. It was like a restaurant and a venue. So there are people in the restaurant area, which was closed for the night, and everybody was just singing every word. I was like, this is music. Like experiences like that are just so cool when you can be in a tiny room that is packed with a bunch of people like singing the same song. As much as it is so cool to be that like in an arena or like, I saw Taylor Swift, so seeing that in a stadium, like that is super cool, but I don't think anything beats that like club, like intimate vibe. And I think that's so special. And so many of my favorite shows are in kind of smaller places like that. And I think that's so awesome.
I agree, yeah. And I played a couple stadiums. We did a couple stadiums with Zach Bryan, with
Yeah.
Jason, and it was fine. And then we did this, with Jenny Lewis, we did 10 weeks of arenas. And again,
Yeah.
it was fun. It was fun. I like the arenas better than the stadiums. But yeah, you do lose that intimacy. And there's something really special about that
Yeah.
energy that you're not going
Yeah.
to be able to get when everyone's so much further away.
Yeah, I mean, even when you have just like 1,000 people and, when they're all really into an artist and you can see them connect in your smaller room like that, or like, at like a smaller club, you said Williamsburg, or, you can see that. And I feel like as an arenas, especially in stadiums, it's just not that same vibe. Like I
Yeah.
almost thought about traveling out to one of the Zach Bryan shows just to see y'all. And I was like, do I really want to see Jason in a stadium? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think it would, because I know I'd probably be the only person like screaming every word, and then there'd be a lot of people on their phones,
Yep.
and like
Yep.
all the logistics of it, I was like, think I can just wait a few months and I'll see him.
Yeah, that's totally right. And that was, again, it was cool to do, but the vibe was, yeah, mostly it's a bunch of young, like 16-year-olds who
Mhm.
don't know who Jason is and don't know who we were and who were on their phones waiting for Zach, which is cool. I mean, that's what opening is. Opening is hard. It's
Yeah.
to put out a lot of energy and you often do not get much back. But
Yeah, and I think that's sad. I think I'm just so much of a music nerd that like I go into the opening acts with an open mind, and I found so many of my favorite people, and even people that I've had on the show because I've seen them open for my favorite artists, and like that's what's so fun about the 400 unit. It feels like you never know who you're gonna get as an opening act, and you're gonna get
yes,
all kinds of really cool people from all different backgrounds, and it's just an experience. And I think I feel like more music fans, but it's hard like with younger kids being on their phones, especially when you're opening up for like Harry Styles or Zach Bryan, like a superstar that everybody is like so hyped on seeing. They're just so excited to see their idol that maybe they're just not they're not ready to hear some new music yet because they're so focused on what's about to come.
yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it because a lot of the time it's not, it's not people being deliberately, with deliberate bad intentions, but they're very focused on the, they know all the Harry Styles songs or they know all the Zach Bryan songs and they're really focused and excited about that. And yeah, they're not necessarily in the mind space, the headspace to like learn to hear some new music. But I love that you are.
Yeah, I always am. I've and it's so cool because sometimes you can catch an opening act and then they'll go on and have this amazing career, and then you'll have that story of I saw so and so when they were opening. Like I
Yep.
know a lot of people got that with Chapel Roan last year with Olivia Rodrigo.
Right,
Because
that's what, yeah.
because she was an opening act, and like Phoebe was opening up for Taylor, even though Phoebe was already really huge. There were a
That's
lot
what
of people that got to hear Phoebe for the first time because of that. So, I
That's true. And then when I was playing with Phoebe, I remember now that Soccer Mommy was opening up for us.
wow, yeah, that's
Yeah, right
crazy.
before, and Sophie was like, she was young, she was like 19. I don't even think she was allowed to be in the bars we were playing in. And
Wow.
that was really cool. And then she got really big right after that. So it was cool to like see them play.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think it's so cool, and I think it's very important to do that with an open mind. But kind of wrapping up on that question, I did want to bring up you guys were just in Mexico doing the
yes.
Super Ocho. I was talking to Will right before that happened. I didn't get to talk to Tyler about it, but I wanted to know like how was that like? Because I don't think you guys have ever done a fan event like that, and there was like wrestling and Q&As and a smaller venue. You guys did play a smaller club in Mexico, right?
Did,
Like,
yeah.
how was that like for you? Was that like really cool? And how was the setting?
It was fun. I mean, yeah, it was awesome. I love Mexico City so much. I've been a couple times. And we were lucky enough to, yeah, we were there for a few days and we only played with the band, we only played one show and most people's partners came out, which was really sweet. So it was like a big, it was like a big fun time and
Aw.
it's beautiful and the food's amazing and like I just loved being there. And the f- yeah, it was sweet. It was like a nice number of fans. It was maybe like a couple hundred. And
Wow.
yeah, the meet and greet, everyone was super sweet, really respectful, really nice. Everyone was just happy to be there. We were happy to be there. I thought the show was great. It had a really good energy. And
Mm.
yeah, we went and saw the Lucha Libre, which is the Mexican professional wrestling, which I loved. Sadler's been getting me into professional wrestling like this past year because I'd never seen it before. And he had it on the bus. We watch a lot of sports on our bus in general.
I was gonna say, I'm sure you've
Oh
watched
my
your
God.
fair share of college football.
I've watched, yeah, I usually leave I'm going to get into it this year. I've decided I'm going to get into the college football this year, but football season's not my favorite. I like basketball season better. But on the
Please
bus,
tell me you're gonna root for Alabama.
I have to. I have to. I know, hey, I know who's paying me. Um, I know where my money comes from. Well, we have a couple people on the crew from University of Georgia. So yeah, so there's, a little bit of a rivalry going
Rivalry.
there. But no, we got into kind of Sadler and I watched a lot of professional wrestling last year. So then when we went and saw the Lucha Libre, and we were right in the front, like the wrestlers were right up against us, and it was the most fun. It was so much fun. It was like, yeah, it was really the costumes and like the characters, and I really had a good time.
That is so cool. That's so funny. Yeah, when that was announced, I was like, that's interesting, but I feel like that makes sense. It seems like the band would put something like that on and would want to go see that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was a good time, and yeah, I'm kind of like, who do I need to talk to make sure we do that every year? Because I would love to do that every year. Like in January, great. I mean, so
Oh,
much
I
fun.
wish I could have gone. I'm gonna be tied down to school for the next 5 years, so
I know, yeah.
I can only
And
probably catch, I even told side of us, I don't think I'll be able to go to the Ryman this year. I mean, I'll try, but
oh man,
yeah.
that's bad. You sure you need to do a PhD?
I know. It's like, oh, I mean, do I? I want to become a college professor, so I guess I
Okay, so you
do.
kind of do
It's
then.
like, I know. I mean, I wish it could just be around my concert schedule.
Right, yeah. Yeah,
I
how do
need,
you do
I need
that?
to take off. I need to go to Mexico City this week.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Research, right? It's research
Yeah,
for your
research. I mean, if I want to study, it's
dissertation.
media studies. I'm
Wait,
studying the songs. I'm studying the culture.
yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure you can find a way to do it.
That's so awesome. Well, it's been so amazing talking to you. And is there anything else that you want to bring up while we're here? I mean, we know we covered a lot, but I didn't know if you have any more SML shows. We got some 400 unit shows coming out in the summer.
Mhm.
If there's anything else that we kind of forgot.
No, I think we covered a lot. I mean, it's we're gearing up for another busy year. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And it's been so nice chatting with you, and I really appreciate you taking the time, and like it's and
Mhm.
like I don't know, yeah, like coming up with really interesting questions, and it's getting to chat about a lot of different things. So
Thank
thank
you. Yeah, it means a lot. Like I said, I try to make sure like it's worth your time because you have a busy schedule. You're constantly doing something. So the fact that you've taken like an hour and a half to talk to me, it just
you.
really means a lot. And I'm so excited. I hope I'm gonna see y'all in Birmingham
Oh,
at
great.
that 400 unit show. I hope I'm going to be able to make it out to that one. That might be my last full band show before I start school, but I think I'm gonna try to
Oh,
make it happen and love to see everybody and have a little celebration.
yeah. Yes, I hope so.
Have a great rest of your day and have fun with the shows that you have coming up.
Thank you so much. Take care. Be well.
Thank you, you too. I'll talk to you soon.
See you later.
Bye.